What's up, Yins? Second episode, second rendition. Let's talk Buccos. I'm joined as always by Jake Bell, Peyton Celesti.
Pirate Peyton.
That is true.
I'm not going to call you that. I'm Nathan Schivins, and we got a lot to talk about here on the second episode. Let's talk Buccos. Some Spencer Horwitz injury news. Some, spring training getting started now, getting ramped up a little bit. Players reporting. We got some of that. There was also apparently a big move to be made, so we're going to talk about that as well. But I just want to get you guys' thoughts to start about this Spencer Horwitz news that he had right wrist surgery. What is that in his timetable is supposed to be, pretty close to opening day. So what do we think about this injury and what the impact could be on the Buccos here as we head towards the regular season?
Yeah, so as we've mentioned in our podcast, we've mentioned before, Cherington was aware of this lingering injury whenever he acquired him, and obviously it was a hefty price for a guy that, hasn't played very much, but it seems like Cherington was willing to take this risk anyway because not only of the versatility, but you get a guy that's still under pre-arbitration, obviously, because he hasn't had much years, or really hasn't had a full year of service time, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like they feel like, hey, even if he struggles year one, he has all this time under contract to get this habit of swinging normally back again. But at the same time, this is a very important year for this franchise. This is an important year for Ben Cherington, Derek Shelton. These are guys that right now are probably fighting for their job. And so it is a little bit concerning. I'm curious to see how they handle this, but I hope that Horwitz is back fully healthy whenever his wrist injury is no longer that apparent. So
That the first part that you said about, and that's what's so shocking to me about this, is that they knew that he had a chronic wrist issue, and apparently he re-injured it, or it was a new type of injury, but it was based on this chronic issue, and that's what they were like, okay, we need to have surgery. That was after they had traded for him, but they knew that the wrist issue thing wasn't a problem, and that's why you have what's it called? You have when a trade happens and the physical,
yeah.
right? So that way the team knows what they're getting, that they're getting a healthy guy. And like you said, Ben Cherington is gonna. This is a year they have to do well if he wants to keep his job, and he gets a guy who hasn't proven a whole lot. He was a late round draft pick. I think he's gonna be a fine player, but is he what the Pirates? For him to be the main move for the Pirates this offseason, that's not good enough. And who knows, with a wrist injury, when you're at the plate, your arms, your wrists, your hands, that's what you use up. That's what you're using in your swing. And who knows when he comes back, which might be by May, when he'll feel like himself again. And teams have tape on him now, right? There's always the thing as a sophomore slump. This is just a bad look for the Pirates when your biggest addition in the offseason comes in, walks into spring training. Oh, he's in a cast. Oh, well, that's just wonderful. As I bang the table here on accident, but
you give yourself a cast.
I almost end up getting wrist surgery just now.
Yeah, no, it is. It's just terrible luck. It's kind of Pirates luck here, where the big acquisition in the off season, comes into spring training with a cast. The guy who's going to be the starting first baseman for this team, and who was looking to improve for the Pirates overall at their first base woes that they've had since really they traded Josh Bell. And for something like this to happen, and it looks like the timetable could be, he might be healthy by the start of the regular season and opening day, but then he has to have his rehab and everything. He has to get conditioned back in, and by that point it might be mid-April, it could be late April, and who knows, hopefully the surgery goes well and his wrist is back to feeling good, but hopefully there's no lingering kind of effects here of this, because they said it might be something that's chronic, which is really troubling for sure. So I want to pivot here from Spencer Horwitz to something that's been reported on a little bit, the alleged big move that the Pirates have yet to make and that are supposed to be making. Now, Ben Cherington was asked about this, I think, Thursday, and he said that there's nothing forthcoming, or there's nothing drastic happening.
We are not on the doorstep of anything. End quote.
Yeah, we're not on the doorstep of anything. That's the exact quote I was. But what is so what? But let's run with these rumors, this reports. What if there was a big move to make? Because I think we all think there should be another move. There should be a pretty big move, and this would be beneficial overall. What do we think this big move should be or could be for the Pirates before we really get into spring training and opening day?
Oh, Nate, you and I talked about this earlier. Obviously, the two glaring needs are first base and outfield, especially with Horwitz out. Plus, do we really trust Horwitz to be an everyday player? I don't know, especially now with this whole wrist thing. He still has a lot to prove. He hasn't done well against left-handed pitching. They don't really have anything at first base. But they already made their big move for first base, right? Their supposed big move for first base. So I would expect them to go out and get a left fielder. And I say a left fielder because Derek Shelton said yesterday, a couple days ago, that Tommy Pham is going to be the left fielder and Brian Reynolds is going to move to right field. I know, Jake, you have thoughts on that. You have numbers on that. But Tommy Pham should not be your starting left fielder. At his age, left field is harder to play than right field, right, where he has played in recent years. You got to go out and get a legitimate left fielder. Now, there's still Alex Verdugo out there, right? But I don't think at this point they're signing many free agents. So they have to go out and get an outfielder. But if you're going to give up, my concern is that they're going to give up a Mitch Keller or a Jared Jones to get some sort of big-time young player or young prospect that's about ready to come onto the scene. Mitch Keller I could see because of his contract and you're paying him $15+ million over the next 4 years. But I think it's going to be outfield. Who, I don't know. And how drastic this big move is, I don't know. It's hard to predict. And do I trust Ben Cherington to make a big move without being desperate and without he already gave up a lot for Spencer Horwitz. I don't. It worries me, but they do need to. This is his last chance to make up for something for this offseason.
Yeah, I actually have in mind first base and outfield for what I think they should do. I'm not sure where their head is at, like on what they would like to accomplish here. But I've probably talked your guys' ears off about this. But I would love the Pirates to explore a trade option. I don't know if he's available, but there could be a possibility with Tristan Casas now that Alex Bregman got signed. But there's been talks that maybe Casas will stay. I haven't heard any trade rumors since. I'm a huge Heston Kjerstad fan. You guys already know. I think he has 25 homer potential, and he's young. He's going to go through pre-arbitration just like Horwitz. So he would be a fantastic outfit. I mean, if Kjerstad plays to his ability that he's shown in his limited time in the MLB, I mean, you have an outfield of Brian Reynolds, O'Neal Cruz, and Heston Kjerstad. Like that can turn into, in my opinion, a better version of the Kutch Marte Polanco if everything were to work out well. And Kjerstad, I think, would be more likely to be obtainable just because the Orioles made so many moves getting outfielders. I mean, they already have Colton Cowser, Cedric Mullins, brought in Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, I believe Ramon Laureano, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, they have all these outfielders. But Tristan Casas, like, I have a feeling to get him, the Red Sox are going to look for, like you said, a Mitch Keller or even a Jared Jones. And I just don't think that's worth it. I mean, I love Luis Ortiz, but in my opinion, as a Pirate, he was set to decline. I think he's going to strive in Cleveland. I just think he was going to decline for us. Jared Jones and Mitch Keller, I feel like are going to be rotation locks. So I hope that would not be the case to get a Tristan Casas, but you never know. It's just the starting pitching market this year is just way too valuable. So those are two moves I would like to see. I doubt the Red Sox would want to grab prospects. I would see more the Orioles wanting to grab young pitching prospects, not the Red Sox. They're built to win. So, yeah, I think that's
the Orioles are, too. They need starters. They need a guy.
But they could go after Hunter Barco, who the Pirates drafted out of college, who is more than likely going to be in the MLB within the next year or two. So.
Yeah, no, Jig, I completely agree with what you're saying there as you're listening to Fox Sports Wheeling Pittsburgh. Let's talk Buccos. I think Heston Kjerstad or somebody like him would be a tremendous addition for the Pirates. I think that is something like we were talking about this earlier, but Tommy Pham is kind of like a fourth. He feels like a fourth outfield type, on a pretty good team. He's not a starting caliber outfielder at this stage in his career. I think we all agree. a guy like Heston Kjerstad at the right price would be a great addition for the Pirates outfield, because I think you're going in, with going into the season with major contributors being hopefully maybe Jack Sawinski or Josh Palacios, and if you bring in Heston Kjerstad to kind of deepen that pool, I think it takes a little bit of pressure off of them as well. Maybe it can make them a little bit better, but it is a big year for those guys as well, trying to prove themselves, especially Sawinski, because he's had it's just been declining, and it's been pretty concerning overall, just his approach at the plate. But I think, and I got like Tristan Casas, if the Red Sox were willing to trade him for the right price, again, like you guys mentioned, I don't know, Jared Jones, Mitch Keller, really don't want to trade those guys. Those are guys you build around foundationally. But if you hope that the Red Sox want a prospect, pitching prospects, Pirates got plenty of them. But I don't feel like the Red Sox at this stage, getting Bregman, they're not going to be looking for prospects. They're going to be looking towards major league guys that are geared towards winning, that'll be on their roster now to win.
So Mitch Keller is $15 million worth of salary. So if you're going to trade Mitch Keller, you got to get a star player that is getting like about that amount in return, or a couple of players like a Kjerstad or a Casas. Those guys aren't making all that much, and someone else, because you can't just dump that salary and then be paying 67, 70 million in payroll. I know that the payroll wants to be around 80, but we don't want it around 70 either. But I do think that they don't like that Mitch Keller contract. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved off him, but it better be for something big. And those younger guys that you talk about, I'd be okay giving up like one of those four guys, Cherington, Buccos, Solomado, even an Ashcraft, although he looks pretty good. But those are guys that aren't going to fit into the long-term starting rotation with Skeens and Jones at the top and Chandler coming up.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the problem here is they got so much pitching. There's a lot of good pitchers that you would be trading away, right? You hear those names, you're like, oh, these guys could down the road really contribute for this rotation, but we don't have time for down the road now with the Pirates. We got to win now. For Cherington, for Sheldon, and also, I mean, it's year
Paul
6
Skeens.
for Paul Skeens, for Jared Jones, honestly, as well, and a guy like O'Neal Cruz. So I think they, while you see those players, you're like, oh, geez, love to see them in the rotation the years to come. You really need to sacrifice that to win now and to win and to make the playoffs, because we've talked about it, Last year was a big disappointment for this team, finishing with the same record as they did in 2023. And if you don't see market improvement this year, big changes are going to be made in that front office and overall in the organization. So I think those guys, while you'd love to keep them, become expendable with that vision in mind of must win this year. But the issue is, we haven't seen this offseason hasn't been attacked like it's a must-win season this year.
They did more in the last two, especially the 2023 offseason, than they have this offseason and last offseason. It's like they're rebuilding or something, but that's clearly not the case. So I don't get it. I do want to talk about Tommy Pham going to left and Brian Reynolds going to right. Jake, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because yes, Tommy Pham has better career numbers than Brian Reynolds in left, but Tommy Pham is old. When he put up those numbers, he was much younger. When he was in right field, he was okay. They had him DH a lot, and because he wasn't that good defensively. I don't get how putting Tommy Pham in left field and Brian Reynolds in right is improving your outfield defensively.
Right. In 2017, whenever he had his best outfield season in terms of defensive runs saved, I mean, that was 2017. Let's be fair. That was a long time ago, 6-7 years. So he had his best run there, but then he didn't move into right field until last year, where he played 45 out of his 55 starts in right field. And obviously his defense wasn't going to be there. So it just seems like this is like a weird move that they saw positive output in left field and negative output in right field, but don't include any context. So it's kind of weird. I get Pham might be more comfortable in left, but we'll have to see how that would turn out to be. So
yeah, for sure, it's definitely something we got to keep an eye on here. Maybe they're geniuses, and maybe Reynolds becomes a Gold Glover and right, and Pham gets back to his 5 years ago Tommy Pham defensively. But again, thank you everyone for listening. Let's Talk Buccos here on Fox Sports Wheeling, Pittsburgh. We'll send it over to you now, Tank.